What's up, guys? It's me, Morgan, with Spirit and Life Fitness, and I am here today to talk about some commonly asked questions in the Catholic Church. Today we're going to be talking specifically about the transubstantiation, the body and blood of Christ, and just the general misconception behind it from both the Protestant and the atheist community, which is largely one and the same. And that misconception is that whenever we partake in the body and blood of Christ, that we are literally committing cannibalism, which is a complete heresy, or that because of this transubstantiation, there is a literal changing that takes place during the ceremony. Now, what we can understand through some philosophy, we can understand through the linking of Platonic thought by St. Augustine, is that there is a realm much above our own, one that God resides in, that is full of essences. And this essence is not necessarily limited to things that are just physical in nature to us humans. Cupness, emptiness, carness, I guess would be one, but even concepts that belong to the Lord as well. And from this, we can argue that whenever we are performing the transubstantiation, we are not just arguing the case for the presence, but the metaphysical reality in the body and blood of Christ, because the transubstantiation as a ceremony is the coming down of the essence of the body or the essence of the blood of Christ into the wine and the bread respectively. And I feel like this is something that is largely glossed over, or something that is just discarded to the side as a joke. Insert the Jewish zombie cannibalism reference here. And this was just something, and I'm going to go on a small little tirade about my fundamental problem with the church as it stands, and that is we, in our CCD education, have made religion, primarily Catholicism, into a caricature of what it actually represents, what the thought process that goes into our religion, and the depth of these thought processes. I mean, just how unprepared people are to deal with not only non-arguments, but actual legitimate philosophical arguments against God or against Christ or against the church is enormously staggering. And my understanding is that recently, ever since the Second Vatican Council, that the Catholic Church's idea hasn't been necessarily winning the argument, because that would require actually teaching people the virtues, the ethics, the morals, and things of that nature, but it has been devolved to a virtue signaling game, such as just appearing to have an essence of virtue, being open to accepting things that are just blatantly against what have been in the church's teachings for the longest time according to our traditions. I mean, in this, what primarily comes to mind is Pope Francis's recent statement on the absolvance of those who are penitent for abortion. Now, I'm not a scholar. I'm only presenting my opinion here. And my opinion is that whenever we're talking about an abortion, we're talking about an unformed human that is truly innocent and in my opinion, is free of original sin, because it has no capacity to accept that sin or to be conscious of that sin, and it has no choice. It does not choose. And I know that's an overall argument against original sin. However, my key argument here is that the child is truly innocent, and we are killing a truly innocent child that does not even have the stain of original sin on its soul. And this virtue signaling game has been coming around primarily since Pope Francis has come into the papacy, or the papacy, however you want to pronounce it. And this ideal that, it's not even an ideal, it's a game of concessions to whoever has the lowest standards. And this race to the bottom with a topic that is as philosophically involved as religion, whatever we give up our virtues and our arguments and the things of the like, it becomes a losing game. And whenever I say we're talking about a race to the bottom, it is a race to see who has the lowest standards. And quite frankly, I, as a conservative Catholic, do not enjoy the prospect of giving up my standards as such and not only my standards, but the standards that have been passed down to us through the traditions over the 2,000 years that the church has been in accord. And the thought that I'm just going to hand over these things because we're going to make the church more inclusive to people I could argue, against the entire purpose of the Catholic Church's rather dogmatic approach. And this dogmatism, while isolating, it provides a very real sense of understanding again, this is all my opinion. It provides a very real understanding that over the 2,000 years that we have cultivated some knowledge or some understanding into not the nature of God, but the virtues that He has given us, and how we can use those virtues to not only live a more virtuous life for ourselves, but to keep our relationship with Him very, very strong. Because your faith alone is just that. It is faith. It is, no matter how strong your faith is, your faith is much like words. Your faith will only take you to the extent of what its limits are. And those words, I find, are very, very limited in order for people's scope. So we can argue that salvation from a faith alone, by faith and by the grace of God, as Luther put the argument, is a flawed thesis, because the graces of God are not given to us by virtue of us being human. The immortality that we were created with was a grace of God. The concept that we receive these graces just by being is absurd, to my opinion. And the fact that, in the modern era with indifferentialism and moral relativism quickly overcoming the Protestant community and various other parts and some aspects of the Catholic Church, but I digress. This moral relativism has made the faith and grace seem a lot more appealing, because with faith and grace alone, it means that you can live the life that you choose to, and not the life that God calls us to. And this, I think, is a very, very important distinction, and it's part of what makes Catholicism universal, in a sense. And I understand that both of those propositions can be universal, but in Catholicism, the fact that we are called to live a strict lifestyle that is laid out for us, it's not some good works is not a mystery to those who are inclined to do good works. And just to, for those that might be confused about it, the argument that I'm making for good works is that good works can easily be defined as the 7 heavenly virtues and counteracting the 7 deadly sins, both of which were laid out to us by Pope Gregory the Great. All of the virtues escape me at the moment, or the names of the virtues, but the 7 heavenly virtues, by living those, we are living closer to a life that is called to us by the Lord, in that we can achieve His graces, we can achieve the graces of God in our souls by living this life. And that's really what is going to help us guide to our salvation, is if we find ourselves in the graces of the Lord with a strong faith, the graces of God, by doing these actions, if we are doing these actions and the graces of God come to us, that will further strengthen our faith. And because it's a circular logic kind of thing, that because we feel these graces of God, we are going to continue the good works, and because the good works bring the graces of God, we will continue to do them. And it's a very intricate, well, not very intricate, but it's very simple reward mechanism that is very, very difficult for most people to follow. And I think simply disregarding that part of our faith, the fact that we are called to live a virtuous lifestyle. And I'm not saying that Protestantism doesn't call for a virtuous lifestyle, but I think a lot in the contemporary Protestantism, this not very specific idea of what good works is and what calls to live virtuous lives are, they have made the argument, and it has stuck and appealed to those who do not wish to live a virtuous lifestyle, but still wish to have those who still wish to retain their possibility of salvation. And like I said, these are all just my opinions, and I'm still trying to figure out how to close my videos, but I hope you guys found this useful information, or found this information useful, and let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. This is Morgan with Spirit and Life Fitness, signing out. Bye-bye.